every choice you've made, every food choice, especially, that's the thing that's brought you here. People have a sense of, um, it'll never happen to me. Even into 30s, 40s, they have a bit of a strange God complex. And it's like, no, diabetes won't happen to me.
Dan, how did you find Carnivore?
So it was quite a multifaceted approach, really. Lots of things happened across my life. It's not necessarily like I just woke up one day and thought, I'm just going to eat meat. It was, a lot of the time was, a lot of it was just like taking away. So we were just removing things. But I do have to say, like, full disclosure, I am more of a ketovore than full-blown carnivore. I just found I can still tolerate some things, but I'll explain that later on. But I think the thing is, it's when I look back, and that's when I think, oh, I really should have done things differently. But I was raised with, parents who kind of wanted an easy life, so they give you things that came in a box. Okay, give you things that came in a packet. It was just like, there you go. There's half an hour of, peace of mind. So when I was growing up, like, and I don't mind being this honest, like, I hit puberty at 9, right? So, like, for a man, that's quite young. And obviously, as I got older, and I was looking as to why that could happen, it's because of such an influx of fat, and which provides the hormones to start the process. But obviously, it can happen too soon, and I really do believe that, like, whilst I'm 5'7" now, I do believe I could have been taller if I just ate better when I was a kid. Now, then the next thing was when I sort of, even to the age of 30, so I'm currently 36, and even to the age of 30, I was having what can only be described as, psoriasis would be the best way to describe it, but it was solely on my scalp. And let's just say that for so many years, I didn't think anything of it. Really didn't. I went to bed, my head got itchy at night. I was scratching my head every night. It was just the same thing. So I thought, oh, this is normal for me. Then one day, so like jumping ahead a bit, one day I woke up and thought, I haven't actually scratched my head for a while. I said, like, after I'd started doing carnivore or ketovore, and I thought, oh my God. So something I was eating, I actually don't know what it is. I've not really tried to find out, but something I was eating was causing a reaction. And I was always reacting to that reaction. So whatever it is that I'd taken out, the instinct to scratch also stopped. So I wasn't doing it habitually, and I wasn't doing it as in, like, it was like an allergic response, and I was getting it off. So that for me, like, on a personal level, was quite like a determining thing as to why carnivore, at least removing quite a bit of plant matter, works. The next thing, and again, as a guy, sort of, don't know how to explain this really, like, like UTI, so water infections, right? They're actually relatively rare for a guy because of just the way our anatomy is. I was having them quite literally every 2 weeks on the clock. I could time it to a certain point, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. I was like, this is unreal. Like, why am I having these issues? Why is things going on down there that I just, I went to all the clinics, I was testing myself, and I was just like, what is going on? And then one person decided to say, well, actually, let's just test for glucose. And then it turns out that whilst I was never confirmed to be pre-diabetic or diabetic, I had way too much glucose in my urine. So I was basically flourishing bacteria. And then that was giving me, outbreaks every 2 weeks or so. So those things combined, I was just like, well, something's got to give. And then I was just like, well, I'm going to do this whole low carb keto thing and kind of go with that. I only did that because, believe it or not, it was out of laziness, right? I am too lazy to think about what to eat 3 times a day, right? So I basically just thought, right, what's the thing? What do I like to eat? And I was like, okay, I like meat. I like sauce. So like tomato sauce. I like cream. I like yogurts. I even like dark chocolate. And I was like, great. I'm just going to buy those foods. Now I'm well aware of the oxalate thing, but I can tolerate them for now. And I'm saying for now because, human body can only take so much. And I'm aware of that. But yeah, so, and then it was easy for me to just eat one big meal of food that I like and then not eat again. It makes so much more sense to me to eat that way. And again, it's just, that's the way. It was just out of trying to not, like, just being lazy, I just wanted to not think about food. So, because that's like one thing that I have as a personal belief is if you sort of choose what you eat, plan it out, then you have what I call ordered eating. Whereas if you're someone who has a shopping list, but then goes to the shop and goes, that's on offer, that's a shiny new packaging. Right, so now the shopping list is out the window. You now have what I would say is disordered eating. Now, I know eating disorders exist, which is a completely different thing, but the illusion of choice is in itself a disorder. So by limiting all that, I was just like, this is so much simpler. There's less issues. I am not scratching my head. I'm not going to the toilet like 3-4 times an hour because of sugar wanting to come out. And I wasn't necessarily eating a lot. Like it was mainly like chicken strips or dippers covered in breadcrumbs. Like it was stuff like that. I'd have potatoes, the occasional bit of like flatbread because quite a while ago I stopped eating loaves of bread. It was just like flatbread, pita breads, things that had 3 or 4 ingredients. I've been like that for a while. But I think the thing, again, I know I'm flipping backwards and forwards, but the thing that kind of solidified it in my head was when I was in that scratching my head phase, which I thought was normal. And then looking back at it, like I genuinely used some questionable things to scratch that itch because it wasn't normal. It wasn't like an itch like you get, a little tiny whatever. It was like a desire to get rid of something that was under the skin. Right. And, a couple of times I've used like a metal comb, like just a normal, like a beer comb, but a metal one. I've used one of them and a couple of times I've actually like made myself bleed. But it was that pleasurable. It was weird. It was a strange sensation. And afterwards, I still wouldn't think nothing of it. I'm like, oh, itch is gone. I can go to sleep now. And then when you look back and think, oh my God, whatever it was, whatever food item it was, I don't necessarily care about what the food item was. The fact that that sort of behavior is okay in the eyes of the population, to eat whatever food you want, have a little bit of a scratchy head reaction, whatever, and that's okay. But the idea of just eating solely a limited diet is not. It's like, no. And then that's kind of what I do. That's where I'm at now. So, I don't intend to do any promotion, but I train people physically. I PT, and you can get like someone to just give you a workout and tell you to eat less calories. Like, I'm a Bar K fan, so I don't believe in them. But you can get them. They're a dime a dozen. You can go on, YouTube, Instagram, find something there. So that's where I am with people, is like, I tell them kind of like a similar story. I make newsletters for people, for my clients, and I in April, I actually sent them kind of like my story in a newsletter format, to try and help them, sort of give them examples of things that they might not even think of. Do they have a random rash on their elbow? Take out the obvious. Are you constantly sitting on your elbows on your desk? Take out the obvious stuff, right? Or are you doing that as well as having a food that you are? And it's crazy because so many people, even now, and I've currently have a client who works in medical, establishments, and we have some debates, let's call it that. But it's unbelievable, the fact that people still think that something as simple as a carbohydrate is required, when we have the systems. I'm not trying to be better than them. I'm not trying to be smarter than anyone. It's just, it's kind of like, get people back to basics. Like, everyone is making things way too complicated. I think it was I made a social media post about it, and it was I kind of ripped off Anthony Chaffee, but what can I say? He knows what he's saying. Where it was, the signs in the zoo: do not feed the animals because it'll make them sick. And then underneath, I just got like a stock image of a human in a hospital bed, all wired up, and said, what's the difference? Human is an animal. You're eating the wrong diet, you're sick. Okay. And I'm trying to get that across to people. Like, if you want to eat whatever food you want and have choice, great. But don't eat too much of it. Okay. And I say to them as a jokey way, I said, in essence, I want to make myself unemployed, because I want people to just kind of like get on a better path for themselves. So, I kind of live in that sort of low carb, yeah. Low carb, I'd say about 10 grams a day amount. And people can't understand that.
Is that, you mentioned dark chocolate, is that basically dark chocolate?
It's so dark chocolate, and I can still tolerate dairy really well. Honestly, if I couldn't have dairy, I don't know what my diet would be. So yeah, I have milk, just full fat whole milk, and soft cheese or whipped cream. But I make my own whipped cream. The one, and like I say, I can tolerate things. The one sort of true plant product that I consume and again, it's only the tiniest amount to give the cream a bit more of a substance, is xylitol, which is just a sweetener. I can tolerate that. I have found there is a level I can't tolerate. So, again, it's proof. Eat too much of a plant's going to make you go to the toilet. Yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of fruit and seeds, isn't it? It's
I mean, the xylitol and all those kind of products, or products containing those things, they've got warnings on them anyway, right? It's like excess consumption may have a laxative effect or something. So it's like, they know that it's.
I know, and I think the thing is that people just. The way food is marketed, it's like this product will only do this, this product will only do that, and this product will only do the other thing. But really, it's all holistic. It's like all carbohydrates. Like Clue is in the title, a carbon-based food that attracts water. Okay, carbon hydration, right? That's what it does. Look at rice and pasta. It swells up 3 times its size when you cook it. Right? The Clue's in the title, but people are so kind of like disillusioned to it, and it is really frustrating how we can get to a point where people have now separated it, and it's forever separated in their heads. And I'm trying to like sort of say to people, it's okay to want things. If I want ice cream, I'll make whipped cream, put it in the freezer, done. Okay, if I want to add a bit of dark chocolate in there, I will. I don't feel guilty about eating dark chocolate, and I'm talking like 85-90%. So I've actually got 100%, which probably is actually worse for oxalates, but it was just a random buy. Yeah, if you want things, have them. You just got to make a conscious choice to not eat too much of it. Like, even to this day, if I want, because I'm forever going to be a child who was brought up in like, what do I want to say? Comfort food. So I am forever going to like chicken dippers, chicken strips. But I just make my own. Okay, I use a very, very small amount of almond flour. I know it's awful. It's probably going to go against everything on your channel, but the tiniest amount of almond flour, just so you've got a crunch. You get your chicken, you smother it in an egg, done. And that's what I try and say to people is essentially if you want it, make it. Stop letting the people put it in boxes for you. And it's kind of that mentality for people. Because
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
it's a really good way of putting it.
Like I do try to simplify it for a lot of people, even people who still want to eat carbohydrates, or people who, their heritage is from a traditionally carbohydrate high heritage. I'm like, okay, great. Well, if I've got like an Indian or Middle Eastern client, and I'm like, right, so you like dates, part of your heritage, perfect. Blend them up, 1 or 2 dates, blend them up, and make a caramel with it. Okay, it kind of steps away from like the carnivore side of things, but what I'm actually doing I'm saying this now, so people are going to be like, I'm onto you. But what I'm trying to do is to get people to eat more whole food, regardless of the source for now. And then if they decide, actually, I'm not as hungry anymore, all right, eat the good stuff. The meat, the fat.
It's almost like you're almost trying to unconsciously wean them off stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's more a case of, showing them, look, you can have good food, good meal times. You can cook with your partner if that's what you want to do, if that's how you do things. and you can still enjoy it. You know, if got people who like pasta and they've got that type of stuff, it's like, great, just have pasta that isn't made by wheat, because then I get them off, because that's the idea, is to get people off wheat more than anything. And then oils as well, which, in fact, I can actually show you. I can show you the effect of my diet, which I think will actually show you how bad I became. So I'm 36 now, and this is a zoomed in screenshot just because I'd have to show it on the camera. And I show clients this to say, this is how bad I was, and I don't want you to get to this place. Zoomed in, but I'll try and get my face in it too. So, but try and guess how old I was in this photo. Okay.
Wow.
Try and put me in it as well. So
32.
A whole decade less. 22.
Really?
Yeah. So I took myself to that place, and that's kind of that's why I'm so kind of like dedicated to it as a trainer, or just even as a friend. You know, I show people that and go, that was just, granted there was other things, like there was alcohol involved, lots and lots of fried food, lots of carbohydrates, but lots of mixing of fat, because obviously I'm 22. At that time I worked in kitchens, so full sugar energy drinks and eating food as you go type of things to just keep you going on a 14-hour shift. But yeah, and then I look back at that and I genuinely cannot remember that time properly, because it's like a completely different life. Like since doing this, so it's like 3 years into it, like low carb, took the carbs down, tapered them, and I've been doing kind of like higher meat ketovore for the best part of a year now. You know, it genuinely feels like a restart. I can't. I mean, maybe you'll know yourself, because obviously I know your story with, you know, the arthritis and knee pain and all the things like that. You kind of just wake up one day and feel healthy, and you can't really explain it.
And then everyone thinks you're crazy because you're running around town shouting about it.
Yeah. And what I think, what I describe it as is, you know, when you've had like just a general cold or flu, and then when you recover and you take that first deep breath after recovery, like that's what this is 24/7. You know, and you know, I'm not full carnivore and I'm still getting that feeling. So like, and I try and explain that to people. It's like, imagine having that full first deep breath through your nose, you know, chest, belly full of air, but all the time. It's such a good feeling. And I'm trying to, like, you know, not to sound too religious about it, but I'm trying to, like, you know, go around and shout. But
so how do people react to it when you introduce this to them, like your clients?
So every single time there's hesitation. That, you know, as other people have said in the past and on other videos, it's like, oh, I can't do that. It's too much hard work. And I reply with, it's not hard work because you just don't pick it up. Like, where's the hard work? So the hard work is in your head, and you have this illusion that you are entitled to everything, which you are, but you don't have to take that entitlement every single time. Okay, and I'm quite blunt with people, because if I tell people what they want to hear, you know, eat less, move more, just do this and eat X amount of calories per day, then you'll be great. You'll lose weight, and then you'll come back in 6 months. right? And then, so I'm quite blunt with people and say, every choice you've made, every food choice, especially, that's the thing that's brought you here. Okay. And unlike, and I don't say it in like a really harsh way, but what I mean in my head is, unlike doctors or anything like that, I don't want you really to come back. Okay. I treat every client almost like a grassroots startup business. So then I give them, enough help, enough input for them to then go help themselves. And then it's, if a business wants to refer me other people, great. And then some people have stayed with me. They choose to stay with me because, it helps them stick to it. And okay, and if I'm a source of accountability, great. Because again, I'm quite blunt and I tell people off. Because if you don't pay someone to get told what you want, like in this situation, you don't go to a therapist and the therapist is not going to tell you what you want to hear, so then you get that sort of mental clarification. And as a PT, I'm going to tell someone, well, PT by trade. I like to think myself metabolic health, coach. But I will tell people, it's like, try and simplify the biochemistry of it and say, when you eat this happens. Okay. If you do this too often, that'll happen. And when that happens, you'll end up doing less activity and you got the revolving door, which a lot of people then give it a go. And some stick with it. Now, obviously I'm in the UK and I use kilograms. I'm a very strange one. Most people either use stones or pounds. They make no sense to me. But in terms of one client, I had one client lose 10 kilograms of weight. With that weight loss came a reduction in their medication, because the medication was then so strong for their body size, the side effects were happening. So obviously I was picking up on this, going, we've done this like 2 weeks ago. Why are you feeling faint now? And then kind of pick up on that and go, right, go to your doctor, get the medication reduced, see if it's possible to, and then we carry on the way we're going. But then sometimes, now I bring up that client because that was a case where it's like a worst case scenario, which people think, right, I've been given the secret. I just need to eat less carbs for a while, and then I lose some weight, and then I can go back. And it's not like a typical diet thing. They think that the reduction of carbs is going to help them every single time, but they don't know, because they haven't experienced the rebound effect, that they don't know it's actually going to be worse off. And again, going back to like food control and ordered eating, it's the same with dieting and exercise. Diet and exercise give you a temporary moment of control. And the moment you stop, it's kind of like, oh, okay. And then it spirals into disorder. So then you think, I'll do that thing where, and it's like, it's not just about that. So I try and say that to people, and I use that example to say this isn't a magic pill, unlike what you're told.
Just wanted to pick up on something you said at the start of this part of the discussion. You said you're not entitled to eat whatever you want, and then you said, well, you are. And I think that reminds me of something I heard from a lady I interviewed recently, because yes, they're entitled to eat whatever they want, but that means they have to deal with the consequences of that. And it's like what the lady Anita said to me, the phrase she used, which I hadn't heard before, was choose your hard, which is, relevant to that kind of thing. It's like, well, you're entitled to eat the food, but in that case, you're choosing the hard result, which is putting up with the pain, the weight gain, the unhealthiness, that kind of thing, or you choose the other hard, which is dealing with, as you mentioned, the mental side of it, so that you don't eat just everything.
Yeah. So what I say to people is, it seems like you have to think about their statements, but it makes sense if you think about it in the long run, which is just another way of saying choose your hard. Is it takes more effort to be lazy. So if you eat out of a box now, if you take packets now, it's laziness, it's easy. And then over the years, it's going to take a hell of a lot more effort just to even get to the same box. So it's a similar way of saying the same thing. It's and I think that's the problem with a lot of food and marketing as well. It's just, here's a thing that we can sell you, and it looks bright and tasty, and it probably is. Okay, but you have to then decide, well, are you going to want that to be tough, like a tough outcome later, or do you want the very short-term tough outcome of fighting it in your head, and then you just turn around and look the other way? Because no doubt, and once you go into a supermarket, the moment you turn around, there's another thing to fight. So, but yeah, I believe it's because of the illusion of choice in a supermarket. That's what's making people feel like they have to eat everything, when really it is perfectly acceptable to just eat what you like. Like even if it's a small amount of food, like small selection of food items. And that's what I've been like. So at home, obviously, my partner doesn't do what I do, but she accepts it. Okay, doesn't like it, but it is what it is. And I think once it got past the 6-month mark, and I didn't have scurvy, I think she kind of realised I was okay. Because
what are restaurants like? Do you go out to restaurants together?
Oh God, they're tough. They are tough, but essentially, we just try and pick restaurants that have a decent steak or burger option. So at least I can double up on the burger and add some cheese or whatever like that. But I mean, I'm sure secretly deep down she loves it because she can have extra chips or fries, So, but yeah, like, and again, I don't judge. I don't sit across the table and judge what anyone else is eating, because it's all a choice. I choose to be one way, and it's not from a high pedestal. It's not from anything like that. It's just what I've chosen for me. It works for me. But at the same time, when I look across and see people 30, 40 years down the line from my age, so 60, 70, and they're sick, and I go, did you eat a diet full of meat? And they go, no, it was mainly whatever. I'm like, right. Well, maybe let's just try something a bit different, So once we get to that 30 to 60, 70, maybe you won't be like that. And I think people, and I can speak for this 100%, people have a sense of, it'll never happen to me. Even into 30s, 40s, they have a bit of a strange God complex. And it's like, no, diabetes won't happen to me. But then one day it does. And, like what I was saying earlier, I was probably on the line of being diabetic. And then I just got myself off it, and I actually wore a CGM just for a couple of weeks, because one of my clients upgraded his and had a spare one, so I was like, great, I'll give it a go. And I was eating the exact same foods as I always would: my whipped cream, bit of dark chocolate. I have 500 grams of 20% beef mince, ground beef, and some cream. Okay, as I like make a little sauce with that. My blood sugar actually went down slightly consuming those foods. So I would eat food, my blood sugar would go down. I don't know how that happens. Like, it's just a strange thing. The only time my blood sugar spiked was, so his average was like 4.6. Across those 2 weeks, it spiked to 9.2. I'm using UK, so it's millimoles, mmol. It basically doubled in blood glucose amount when I was exercising. It was the only time my blood sugar spiked, and it spiked very quickly into the exercise, but then it tapered off. Now, I like to do workouts that last an hour, or at least. It's like a continuous sort of circuit that lasts an hour. And that just showed that my body created its own sugars, and then as it got used, as it got itself into gear, and then great, it just lowered the blood sugar and then carried on. And then 5-10 minutes after my workout ended and my breathing was back to normal, my blood sugar was back down to like just on 4. So it was really good.
When I hear that, it feels like the body really, we really need to just get out of the way and just eat normal whole foods and let the body deal with everything else, because it's managing everything properly, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of I don't get into the politics of things and people's like preconceptions, but there's a fella on YouTube called, I think it's Dr. Gliden, right? And he says something that really sort of rings true in my mind, is the current system is based on that the human body can work for so long on its own. And then once it starts to break down, we come in with medication rather than just actually fix whatever, the root cause is. Which more often than not, it's going to be something we're putting in. Okay, you've got environmental things, you've got things like that, but the moment you eat anything, even full-blown carnivores, the moment you eat anything, you're promoting inflammation because your body's having to fight off something that's come in. Okay, technically, the mouth to anus is still technically outside the body, so your body is fighting it to make sure it's safe to then go inside the body once it's inside the blood. So if you're having a diet that is chronically high in inflammation, like more than what is a reasonable amount, and again, that is different for everyone, so who knows what that is, then you're going to get these issues. And you're going to get this breaking down of the body to where it can't repair itself. I think a really obvious example, alcohol. Okay. I know you've drunk in the past, but so have I, right? Alcohol and the liver. Too much for too long, the liver's gone. And then you need drugs, medication until you can get a new one. And it's a really good example just of how the input of something can affect the breakdown of something. But if you just left the body to do what it does best and stop putting in that input, it's not overnight, it's not quick, but it'll happen. So like I say, it took me 6 months to stop scratching my head. So who knows what that was for 6 months afterwards. But yeah. The body's clever.
Yeah, well, so where does this go for you from here? Do you think you're going to stay with this dietary pattern going forward? And do you think you'll become more of an advocate with your clients about it?
Yeah. So I've not long actually became an ambassador for the PHC in the UK. they've got the conference next month, which unfortunately I cannot make. I know, or this month, sorry. But so I'm kind of in this, for the long haul, because if you've got conditions such as diabetes, type 2 diabetes, in my mind, that is a reversible condition, because you've got a resistance to sugar. You've not got a resistance to insulin. Insulin's not working because there's too much sugar. So you stop putting in the sugar, insulin will eventually start to be listened to again. I like to keep things quite like binary, it either is or it isn't. You can get into the nuances, but again, I can only work with so much. Obviously, I'm essentially only in a gym. Okay, I can get blood glucose tests for people. That's fine. But for the long haul, yeah, will I have an alcoholic drink again? Probably. Will I eat cake again? Yes, but I'm quite structured on that it's got to be made from like almond flour or something. If my partner like wants to bake, I'm not going to deny her making me something. Like, I'm not like that. And I don't have any kids at the moment, but if I did, and my kid made the whitest of flour, stupidly sugar layered icing cake, I would eat it, because kids don't comprehend my choice because they're kids, but they can comprehend the rejection of a gift. So I'm not necessarily like never going to eat anything again, like that type of stuff, but I will probably never do it wanting to myself. If someone gives me something and I'm offered, then yeah, but I kind of don't want to. If I'm going to be paying people and then training them and teaching them, I don't want to use that money that I've been given through their trust then on the foods. I live that lifestyle.
So do you have a YouTube or a website or something if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I didn't put it in the name. Should have. Would have made it much easier. So it's just Instagram at the moment, because believe it or not, this is the first time I've been on camera. I don't like camera and my accent as well. But it's the Taurus trainer. So like Taurus is in the star sign.
I like the alliteration. Nice work.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what it originally was going to be. T3 training. But then I realized the Taurus trainer training doesn't make sense. But yeah, but it's quite a play on loads of things. I'm as stubborn as a bull. I pretty much, my diet in a word is the cow, minus a couple of other things. But yeah, it works all around. And I think it kind of helps people to sort of make me see I'm not just another person who's like, eat less, move more. Okay, and you must have 500 grams of carbs before a race.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show. I feel really bad. I don't know who it was, but I watched someone interview a person who'd done 5 marathons in 5 days fasted.
That might have been Bart Kay, or I think Anthony Chafee did an interview as well.
Yeah. And I'm showing that to people now who are like into all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, you don't need the carb load. You've got it there in your body, So it kind of like put into perspective for people. It's only as hard as you're making it, and then we go from there.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'll link to your Instagram in the show notes. And
thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.